Okay, let's try this again. I can't tell you how many times I've done this. So basically, I turn the mic off and mute it while I'm waiting for the countdown to roll down. And clearly, I am not Mr. Technologically Savvy. So my mic was turned off. I think now everybody should be able to hear me. So give me a thumbs up if you can. Ankur here, he's connected via Skype with me. And so he hears my audio. So it's all good. All right, so just to reintroduce, this is a special episode. I am Canadian immigration lawyer Mark Holthe, ex-immigration officer and former high school teacher, back again with another episode of the EE Live Q&A on the Express Entry Law Facebook group, as well as in YouTube land on our Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel. And I have a special guest today, Ankur and his spouse, Charu, who is joining him. They are, or were in the U.S. on H1B status and still are. And they have some exciting news, but their journey to permanent resident status in Canada was not easy. So I have invited them to come on and talk about their story. And so this episode, to some extent, is dedicated to H1B holders, visa holders in the U.S. who are wondering what the heck to do with all this craziness that is going on there. So I'm just looking here. So you guys, I want you to post and just confirm if you can actually hear me. Okay, there we go. Karen says, I can hear you now. Good. So I'll have to go back and maybe clean up that beginning part there with no sound. But I'm going to have them come on. As always, as we wait a few minutes for people to join us, post in the comments where you are listening from. And I love to hear where people are listening in and tuning in from. Especially those of you who are tuning in the middle of the night, all over the world, across the ocean, wherever you are living. So please let me know where you are listening. Okay, while we're waiting for people to come on, I'm actually going to pull in our special guests right now, and let's see if this is going to work for us here. There we go. Okay, so you're live. How are you doing, Ankur?
Hi, Mark.
And
We are doing
Charu,
this.
how are you doing?
Hi, Mark. Everything fine. We're doing great. But the past
Awesome.
days, so very excited.
Great. It's great to have you guys. Ankur, I'm going to have you guys snuggle in a little bit closer so that you're both, I can see you both in the middle of, so closer together. Yeah. Because there you go. Yeah. So you guys like each other. It's all good. So in the video, when I do a split screen, the image is actually a little bit more narrow. So awesome. That's perfect. Now we can see you both perfectly. So tell us a little bit about yourselves. So where are you at? I've kind of hinted at the fact you're in the US, but tell us a little bit about yourselves.
So we are currently in New Jersey and just across the Hudson River, just New York, next to New York actually. And we are in the Eastern Daylight Time Zone currently. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my geographical location. And we came to US around 3 years back. So, yeah, in 2015. And since then, yes, I've been working on H1B visa.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
And
that's pretty
things
much.
are, and so how is the climate for skilled workers in the United States? How are they feeling about their futures?
I mean, it's pretty hot right now in terms of the visa regime, which is like H1B, which is going on right now. So I mean, yeah, it's kind of not favorable, at least for Indians for now. So yeah, a lot of shuffling, reshuffling going on. A lot of changes are coming in. And
So
then not for the non-immigrants, at least for now.
yes, yeah. And so in your situation right now, did you have like a pathway available to you for permanent residence in the U.S.? What was your situation? Because I think yours is very similar to many H-1B holders, especially from India.
Yes, so my employer, they are ready to file the green card permanent residency for us, and yeah, but for the wait time for Indians is quite long in for the green card. I mean, it's the processing time is really very high, and yeah, being a skilled worker, my wife has an advanced degree, master's, and she cannot work on H4 visa, so that's when we thought like, yeah, let's seek some other option like Canada, where she's free to pursue her own career goals.
Excellent. That makes a lot of sense. And I think as many people looked at what the US offers and what Canada offers for skilled workers and international graduates and all those kinds of things, they're two different worlds, aren't they?
Hmm. Yeah.
Considerably different. Okay, so you made the decision. All right, the US isn't looking very promising for us. So, Canada, this wonderful land to the north, we're going to take a look at this and this wonderful express entry process that seems to be so easy. In fact, it's so easy, anybody can do it. All you have to do is read the website, and that's it. Like anybody who thinks they have to hire someone else or use any other resource to help them get through, they must just be stupid, right? Because anyone who has half a brain can figure it out themselves, right?
True.
So was that your experience? Piece of cake?
No, not a piece of cake, Mark. You know that it was not a piece of cake. It was a roller coaster ride, and it took us around more 1 year,
1 year, yeah.
just a little over 1 year.
24th of July, we just thought about it and got our WS account ready. And it's on 30th of July we got our passports. So it's
yesterday. This is being broadcast on July the 31st. Yesterday you got your passports, and I bet you guys are super excited.
Yes. So when we talk about was the process easy? On the papers, yes, it is easy. It's just like submit your documents and you're through. I mean, if you've got the documents ready, you're through. But in actuals, no, it's not as easy. So our journey began 1 year back, and we received our ITA in November 2017.
And how many comprehensive ranking system points did you have?
We had 469.
79.
479
points.
We had. So, I mean, the ITA was quite sure. So we got the ITA, but we were not sure about the FBI PCC, and there was no one to guide us. Like, we can defer, sending the FBI PCC letters to IRCC. So what we did was we declined the ITA first initially, and then again we got the ITA in January, and then FBI PCC they came up with the EDO system, which is the online, system through which you can apply your PCC and all that stuff. So we got it in like 5 or 10 days.
Yeah.
And then we applied for the permanent residency through the express entry federal skilled workers.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey began on 25th of February with the application of receipt. And then we got one document which is called IMM 54. I don't remember the representation document, which we thoroughly signed and sent back to the IRCC, followed by the medical approvals that we passed the medical exams.
Mm-hmm.
Then one fine day in June, we got the procedural.
So just to clarify, at this stage, it was smooth sailing, no issues, right? It was bliss. Sailing. You guys were going to be immigrating in no time, and life is good, right?
Yep, life was good. We were quite sure that we got the PR. I mean, we sent the documents. Everything is good now. So awesome. That's it. So, but one day a bomb was dropped on us.
A bomb was dropped on you.
Yeah, it was.
What happened?
A procedural fairness letter came in, which is like, if I'm not mistaken, that letter is kind of a last chance for you to respond to the immigration officer, the query he has. So that's pretty much it. He raised a concern about our daughter's birth certificate. It did not seem to be legitimate to the immigration officer, which I don't. Yeah.
So the birth certificate of your daughter, they didn't believe was real. They thought you just faked it and made it up.
Yes. Yeah. So the letter was the accusation was quite concerning about the faking of the birth certificate probably. So we had to respond in a very timely and you remember that they gave us only 7 days to respond, mm-hmm. which was crazy. I mean, 7 days to respond to a procedural fairness letter.
Yeah. And what if you never saw your email, right?
Right. Yeah.
What if there was a delay in getting your email and?
True. So but luckily we were lucky. We saw that email that day itself, and I mean, our dreams were kind of shattered at the same time. That's when I thought, like, okay, enough. Let's seek some, the legal advice from someone, I searched through internet, googling it like the best immigration lawyer. No, but my instincts. I listened to my instinct that Mark Holdy. Let's talk to Mark. Let's talk with Mark, and then it was really easy to get hold of you, Mark. Really, it was easy. I mean, thanks to you, it was. Yeah, so few of the immigration lawyers, they outright said like, nah, we don't deal with these kind of express entry procedure fairness issues. All right, I was like, okay, let's call Mark now.
And that's a good point too, because, and I know you mentioned immigration lawyer. I don't know if you really meant lawyer, whether you meant consultant, but the reality is anyone can represent someone filling in a form that the client could basically do themselves, but it's an entire different issue when problems arise. And usually what I find for our clients when we have people who are hiring us to help them with the whole process, we are on their side. We battle all the way through. And if any unexpected issue comes up, like yours did for you, that's a part of the service that we offer. And then I get all these other outfits that are charging, a third of what I charge, who, they fill out the form, submit it for your behalf. They're glorified couriers. And in the end, if there's anything that goes sideways, they're like, sorry, we can't help you. No, it's not worth our time. We don't know how to deal with this.
True. Yeah. So that's when me and my wife came to the conclusion, let's talk to Mark, because, we've been following you since we started our application. So the first thing which clicked in our mind was like, let's talk to Mark. Let's see what Mark has to say on these points. And the calmness which you handled with our case, I appreciate that. I mean, you guided us with what the responses should be and how serious the allegations were actually, because there were 3 points. I don't know if you remember that, the 3 points which immigration officer raised his concern on. So first was the birth certificate. The second one was having 2 applications. So 2 applications for me and my wife. Second point, and the third one is the logo discrepancy on the wife's the letter given. The experience letter given to her from her office, because of the investment and the disinvestment the company has gone through. So the logo discrepancy was there. So these 3 were the concerns raised by the visa officers. So
and just to reiterate for our listeners again, there were 3 issues in that procedural fairness letter. So this wasn't just a case of could you clarify the source of your proof of funds. This was, we think you have produced a fake document for your child's birth certificate. So we don't even believe this child is yours. You're just trying to include them when they're not. The second is we have questions about you filing multiple express entry applications, submitting multiple profiles. And in fact, you had submitted your profile after your wife's as the principal applicant, correct?
Correct.
And so there was rationale behind why you did that, but that caused a concern in the minds of the officer. Well, what are these people doing? And then the third was, well, we don't believe that your wife even worked for those companies. The logos don't seem to match. Everything it doesn't look as good as we would expect it to be. So they were on the verge of refusing your application, at least an officer did, because of all of these things they felt was wrong. So what happened? How did it play out?
So from there, we wrote our response. The letter, the birth certificate, that was not fake, but the birth certificate issued from India, that are not of very high quality, I would say. Yeah, so it was mistyped here and there all over the birth certificate. So yeah, but fortunately, all this information was available online, which the visa immigration officer can definitely verify on site also, on the government website domain. So we provided that in our letter. But the problem was how to revert that letter, because you have to express your heart in that particular letter so that visa officer understand it, because we are not talking to them. So
this isn't an interview. You have to write your answer and explain and justify.
So that's when we wrote our letter. We consulted Mark, and thanks to you, we got the assurance that yes, whatever we are writing in the letter, that's fair enough. And we went ahead and submitted the letter. Then next,
but that's not the end of the story, is it?
That's not the end of the story yet. It just began. So after 15 days, we got the refusal from IRCC. Yeah, the outright refusal, the letter which state you did not send us the communication in the stipulated timeline, which is 7 days. I was like, really? We submitted all the documents using the web form on the 6th day of the 7 day time deadline, which was given to us. And I don't know why that application or the response that was not forwarded to the visa officer of the office, but our application got rejected, refused outright.
And I'm glad you said that, because people have to understand that you can do everything right and still get it refused. So
True.
let's say you're on your own and you don't know what to do. You've got a refusal. The government doesn't tell you what to do if you have a refusal that was wrong. And so you've got a situation where, and then if you have a representative that says, well, I can't help you, that's not my problem, right? I just submitted your application and I don't deal with problems, right? Imagine where you would be. And so, so you got this refusal, which was wrong. Clearly it was wrong. Well, what did you do?
Then I again contacted you again.
Oh, that's right. You did. That's right. You did call me again. Yes.
Yeah, so I was like, really, what we need to do now? I mean, yeah, the good advice which you gave to us, that do not rely on the calls which you have made to IRCC using the phone, the customer service. Send your own response, at least so that you have a proof that you send everything. I mean, these are all the legal advices which Mark can give to the all the express entry candidates. So, but yeah, those advices were valuable. I mean, those were gems. And again, our application was reconsidered. Within 15 days, we got the approval. The reconsideration was again application was reconsidered, and we got the approval. I think on 20th, our application got July. Our application got approved, and I think on 23rd, I sent my passports again. And today in the morning, we received our COPR stamp.
That is awesome. That is so exciting. I am so happy for you guys. So long journey. So what's the message that you would share with people who are, well, they could be H1B visa holders in the US. They could be anywhere in the world. But what's a message that you could leave with them to help them, to maybe, well, just to help them? What do you think?
That question.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, in our case, we had almost everything handy, everything genuine. And we have got our IELTS score, the medical score 8,777, both of us got that score. And so that's why we've got the CRS score, that was 479 because of the IELTS score.
Yes.
And master's degree we had. And then
so what, in short, what I would say,
genuine, everything was handy. And then we have got the procedural fairness. After that, we have got the rejection, and then all of things. That was a roller coaster ride for us. And we have made our reply for the procedural fairness, but the confidence that you had given us, that was tremendous. I mean, we were kind of in dilemma that we have everything handy, we have everything genuine. Then even then we have not.
Yeah, on paper it looks like it's just a piece of cake,
Yeah.
Just a piece of cake, just submit your documents and you're through. No. Yeah. There's a saying that Canadians are polite, but they do vet you very strongly.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So that's what happens. I mean, so it's actually not a piece of cake. So it's actually how you articulate your application, how you submit your application, how you send your letter of explanations. All that really counts toward your express entry, profile, and how the educate your application. Yeah. So all those responses, that does make a difference to your express entry profile applications. Yeah. So what I will say, I mean, again, seek some legal advice if you are in a trouble. Don't just set outright to respond to the, so these kind of letters. Just take some legal advice. That's my suggestion to all the express entry members.
I would say, I would add on a point that I would say the people whose kids are born in Delhi, especially India, please check out your the birth certificate and initially only. I mean, put all the proofs in your document when you are submitting.
Yeah, submit with the
submitting-
explanation letter of explanation.
Yes.
That's the best thing you can
Initially
do.
only.
I mean, we were not even sure what letter of explanation should we be given, because for us, the birth certificate was given to us by the government of India, which is okay. This is
Yeah.
what it is. So we just said it.
Assume it's fine, right?
Exactly.
And
But we never thought like
yeah.
putting ourselves in the shoe of the immigration officer. But yeah, today if we look back and see, yeah, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. The government makes it appear like everything is so easy. It's no big deal. Even that letter, the fairness letter, is just a simple request. Hey, could you just clarify this for me? You have no clue how precarious your permanent residence is. And for you guys, you're fortunate because your comprehensive ranking system score was still fairly high. So if you needed to deal with something, you had the luxury. You could, you could withdraw your or decline your invitation to apply. If there were things that you had to fix, you still had a little bit of room to fix those. But people that, I think last year, 413 CRS points was the lowest score. Can you imagine if a person's application was refused because of something they didn't take seriously? And then the draw never goes down that low again. You have lost your opportunity. And that's the issue that I'm trying to tell people. You have to make sure that you get it right. Because right now we're sitting around 441, and it does not look like it's going to be dropping below that anytime soon. And so if you're sitting at 435 and you make a simple little mistake and an oversight and you get your application returned, it could mean the difference between immigrating to Canada and not. So thank you so much, guys. I really, really appreciate it. For those who've tuned in a little bit later, I'm with Ankur and his wife, Charu, who are Indian nationals who were on H1B status in the US, and I guess technically you still are, who just received their confirmation of permanent residence, and they're coming to Canada. And I would encourage all of you H1B visa holders in the US who are looking at exploring your options to strongly consider Canada and express entry. And obviously here in our office, we love working with our H1B visa holders in the US. And just like Ankur and Charu, we are happy to help in any way we can with your journey. So thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate you joining me. And it was an absolute pleasure to hear your story and to just have you just breathe a little bit of reality into the life of these applications for our listeners.
Yes. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for helping us out all the way through for our application. I don't have the words to say thank you, but still, thank you very much for that, for all the help you've given us.
You're very, very welcome. All right, guys, we'll let you go. I know you've got some other things coming up here, so take care. And I'm sure we will stay in touch, and make sure you let the Facebook group members know. If you're, I don't know, are you guys on the Facebook group? I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
We do.
If make sure that you let us know when you land in Canada. All right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Okay. Let's see if I can get back here. Here I am. There we go. So that was a great episode, at least an interview with Ankur and Charu. Just great people. And they had a real serious situation that they were dealing with. And it was not easy. And there were some pretty serious allegations that on the surface just did not seem very serious at all, at least from the context of the letter. But putting my ex-immigration officer hat on, I was able to see very clearly that what this officer was getting at was super serious. So that's the scoop. Great interview. Those of you who are on H1B status, if you're watching the YouTube channel and watching a recording, yeah, Canada is awesome, but don't just assume that it's a simple, straightforward process, because it's not. And as an immigration lawyer here in Canada, I can tell you that people usually call lawyers when things go south, when things go wrong. And they tend to use whoever's the cheapest. And I can't speak to who that would be. But they tend to use a cheaper alternative at the beginning because they figure there's no issues. But I just had another consultation today with someone else who used some cheaper alternatives, whether they were foreign consultants or whoever. And in the end, when things started to go sideways or they started to have problems, they were left high and dry. And so the person said, sorry, that's not something that you paid us to do. We can't help you, too bad. So those of you who are tuning in, understand that it's always good, even if it's just a simple little consult initially, to get some advice and direction, because it can help you to avoid a whole lot of huge problems. And you guys know me. I'm not a lawyer who's just sitting here telling people to hire me and you can't do it yourself. That's not the case. That's why I created things like my Express Entry complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself, right? It's designed for a fraction of the cost that it would cost to hire me. You can walk through the process yourself. And although this process right here doesn't fully contain every possible scenario, because everybody's situations are different, it's designed to help you and to give you the resources that you can trust, as opposed to just relying on just responses and comments in Facebook groups, like even the Express Entry Law group. So that's the alternative out there. All right. So we are now at the stage of our little group here, where we're going to shift to answering some listeners' questions. And so I've got them right here, and these were sent in by listeners, and they did it. Let's see if I can find where I put my other some of my other visuals. There we go, and there we go. Okay, so they basically sent an email to mholthy@stringham.ca and put EE Live Q&A in the subject line, and that's how you can send me a question in advance. And that's how you can be more assured that your question is going to be answered. Now, we'll open up some time, and we'll let some individuals ask some live questions, because I love answering the live questions. But to start off with, we answer the questions that are sent in advance by our listeners. All right. So first question, here it comes. This one is from Deepika. And Deepika says, "Hi, Mark. My query is in respect to work experience. I know that in previous sessions, you've already clarified about the federal skilled worker work experience conditions, which says, and remember, in order for it to count, it should be paid 1 year full-time and continuous. But what if someone is working as a lecturer for 11 months per year on an ad hoc basis for the last 6 years? Can you please suggest if this experience will qualify for Express Entry? Thank you so much in advance. You're doing a great job." Deepika, this question, and I'm going to make a note here so that I can put it on, in the show notes so people can find these easier. Your question right here relates specifically to the same situation any teacher faces. So in Canada, teachers work, 8 months, 10 months out of the year. If they're in high school, regular secondary school or primary school, and then they have 2 months off in the summers. Well, is that considered to be full-time work? And in your situation here, you're working here as a lecturer for 11 months out of the year, and then you have a month off. Well, to a large extent, it comes down to your contract. And if that's a part of your contract and you are paid continuously through that period, then yes, you can claim that work experience. But if you are purely a contract worker and you can only accumulate 11 months at a time and then your contract ends, then it can't be said that it's continuous. And in order to meet the minimum threshold of 1 year, you have to actually work the full year. You can't accumulate 1,560 hours in a time period shorter than that initial 1 year period. But here's an important thing to note. Once you've met that minimum eligibility requirement of 1 year of continuous skilled work that's been paid, you can then count the portions, if it's 11 months at a time, that are all accumulated within the past 10 years, even if they're in a different knock code. So remember that there is flexibility, but with the initial standard, you have to be able to demonstrate it. Okay, Deepika, that's a great question, and hopefully people like that one. Some people are now starting to post tons of comments here. I'm going to ask you guys to hold off a little bit because with the comments, I'm only going to check the comments once I say I'm now looking at them because it's too hard to scroll back. So hold off on posting your questions just yet. Okay, next question. And actually, Deepika, that one's worth tossing. All right, next one is Fazila. Fazila says, I wanted to know that after landing in Canada, do we need to submit a new set of photos at the airport for PR cards? People get resubmission requests after a long time. Can we get a new set of photos clicked in Canada after landing and send it to IRCC even before they request for one. Will this make the process faster? I would really appreciate your answer. Okay, so right off the bat, guys, you have to understand if you're getting a request for new photos for your PR card, make sure that your first photos are correct. Make sure that they meet the specifications that the government asks for. But the reality is you have to understand if you decide to go ahead and try to do new photos and preempt this supposed request from the government, understand that they won't know where to put them. They won't know what to do with them. To take the photos and then send them randomly, understand you are a permanent resident of Canada. And when you land, then your permanent resident file is basically closed. Then the permanent resident card division are the ones who then take it up and will issue the permanent resident card, use the photo that's on file. So there's no way of knowing. So I can tell you that if you did that and then tried to send it, they probably wouldn't know what to do with the photo. It would probably go to the processing center for the express entry, your EAPR, and if you did it through a case specific inquiry, you uploaded it there, but they wouldn't know where to send it to because there's no reason for you to be sending it unless you're specifically asked for it. So I know it's a little bit of a hassle, Fazila, but the reality is you probably I wouldn't even worry too much about that at all. If it happens to you, it does. And there really isn't a real meaningful way of doing it. Okay, next question is from Tamirlan. And Tamirlan asks this question, which I can tell you is very frequently asked by people. I am 50 years old, and I'm just going to make a note of the time once again. It sure would be good if I had some helpful person who is able to do all of the show notes for me that can tag when the questions are asked and put them in the description so that people can search for them easier. But I'm a one-man show here, so no big supporting cast behind me. So the question is, I'm a 50-year-old, minimum requirements for the Federal Skilled Worker Program and CEC, the Canadian Experience class, do not have any restrictions. Can I immigrate to Canada if I have, say, 450 CRS score in express entry with Canadian education and work experience? Well, 100% the answer is yes. So people, because they don't fully understand the CRS criteria and how the points are calculated, other than what their crooked agent or consultant tells them, the reality is when you don't understand, people assume that if you're old, then somehow you're automatically rejected or not eligible. Well, that's not the case. Age is one factor. It's a factor in the Federal Skilled Worker Program assessment, the eligibility assessment. It's a factor in ranking yourself against other candidates as a part of the comprehensive ranking system. So understand that age is a real hindrance to being able to qualify because you get no points at the age of 50 for age. But yes, if you have a job in Canada, you're working in Canada, then you do have an ability, if you were to study in Canada, although understand 50 years of age, trying to get a study permit to be able to come to Canada and study is going to be really tough because they're not going to necessarily believe that you're a genuine student. And so, yes, you can. And if you manage to get 450 points, then at this stage, there's a good chance you're going to get an ITA. So there is no outright bar or age discrimination, if you will, other than through the point allocation of the entry requirements for the various programs and the comprehensive ranking system. Great question, Tamirlan. I appreciate that. Okay, next question. And this one is at the 30-minute mark, is from Abdulok. And here's the question. Hi, Mark. Really appreciate the work you're doing to help the people like myself. My question is about proving work experience in a foreign country for the Federal Skilled Worker Stream. I work for the U.S. government here in my country as a contractor, and I get paid for the work I do, but don't get a monthly salary. Are we required to submit pay slips as proof of our work experience, or is the reference letter which states our duties along with our annual income be enough? Thanks in advance for your answer. So if you go to the express entry, the EAPR section, so you get your ITA, and now the portal is opened up for you to file your electronic application for permanent residence. When you get to the document checklist stage, it's then really the first time that you can actually see, at least from the standpoint of the express entry portal, what they're looking for in terms of your reference letter. And if you read it, it basically says a reference letter in accordance with the specific requirements, remember, that the government was looking for. And I'm going to jump over and I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I'm just going to pull this up. I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to actually share just the current application. That'll clear off all that other messy background. I'm going to blow this up really big for everyone so everybody can see it. And then I'm going to click on, and you can see up here that I just typed in EE completeness check. At least for me, that works. Then I click on this link, applications for permanent residence programs subject to the completeness check. So this is how the officers determine whether or not your document will actually work. So if you go here and then we skip down to, we'll go work experience. So proof of work experience, you will see what they are asking for. And in this case, it says you need to provide a reference letter from your employer. So yes, that's required. That includes all of these details, and I'm not going to go through them in detail because I've done that before on numerous occasions. But job title, duties, job status, dates worked, number of hours, and annual salary plus benefits. So this section right here, you can see, describes what the reference letter should look like. Then you'll see here, if work experience is in Canada, proof may include copies of the T4 slips, notices of assessment, basically showing that your company remitted taxes for you and that you are gainfully employed in Canada. But if you are to go, and I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to go back to my main screen here if I can, there I am. If, however, you're from a different country, when you open up your EAPR document checklist, it will say to provide pay slips or pay stubs if available. So if you have them, I always tell my clients, then include them. And remember, for express entry, you do not need to provide work history for more than 3 years if you want to maximize your comprehensive ranking system score. So it does no purpose providing work history for a bunch of old employment positions, even if they're skilled, that would result in basically you demonstrating more than 3 years of work experience. Now, I will qualify that. If you need more work experience, in other words, up to 6 years to meet the 67-point threshold for the federal skilled worker program, then of course, you're going to include those reference letters to substantiate that work experience. Because if you need it in order to get the 67 points to meet the pass mark out of 100 for the federal skilled worker program, then yes. But other than that, if it's not a big deal and you have enough with 1 year of work experience, or I should say 3 under the federal skilled worker program assessment, understand with the comprehensive ranking system, 3 years is going to max you out. Foreign work experience, 3 years of it, it doesn't give you any more CRS points. Now, Canadian work experience is different, and you can claim more years, up to 6 years for that. All right, great question. And so when we're looking at this, the question is, do we need to include the pay stubs? And so I've answered that. I'd also point out that when you're going through this whole process and you want to follow exactly as I said with those reference letters to the T. You do not want to shortchange. And so when I go back here to the screen again and I share it with you guys, and we look at this and we can see right here, and I'll just bring this down a little bit. There it is. Okay, so if I see right here that it says annual salary right here plus benefits, guess what, guys? If I have a reference letter that says hourly wage, it probably isn't going to be a big deal. But if my reference letter says Mark worked as a lawyer with our law firm Stringham LLP in Lethbridge, Alberta, from March the 1st, 2017 to present, and his annual salary was and he's paid, $20 an hour for his work. Well, this says annual salary plus benefits. So in those circumstances, I would go back and say, okay, I need to get a new reference letter that says my annual salary is 50,000 Canadian per year. Okay. So those are the little details that you have to pay attention to, and you can't overlook them. All right. Great question, Abdulok. Okay. And our last and final one comes from Moses. And Moses says, and I'll make a note of the time as well here. Hi, Mark. Warm greetings from Uganda. Wonderful, Moses. Now I'd like you to clarify about proof of funds. Can I get a gift deed without the money reflecting on my account? Can I get a bank statement from my uncle and a letter stating that he will give me the money without writing it on the account? Without wiring it on the account. Thanks, Mark, for the wonderful work done. Moses, the answer to your question is 100% no. You cannot. The money actually has to be given you. It has to be in your possession. The promise to someday pay it means nothing. And understand, a gift deed is a promise that that money is going to be given, yes, but for immigration purposes, unless it's actually in your bank account and you can show that it is available to you, then it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. So Moses, you cannot do that. In this case, your uncle is going to have to actually transfer those funds into your account. So, all right, great question. All right, it's time for a little bit of an interlude. And I want to share with you guys some of the fun things that I did this past weekend. And I also have to show you something that's quite hilarious. But I had the privilege, and I'm going to pull this picture up here, see if it goes on here, of going trolling with my son Connor. And trolling is when you are in a boat and you have your line out the back with a motor and you just drive along really slowly with your lure in the back with the hope of catching fish. And I had a client who was from Belgium who took Connor and I out fishing with him on his boat. It was so wonderful. He was so awesome. He had invited us and we had tried for quite a while to be able to make it work, but finally we did. And so we went out and I'll show you this as well. I'm going to pull this one off. And this is what we got. And these fish, this picture is a little bit higher than normal. These fish are actually bigger than they really look. So the way I took the picture doesn't fully reflect the size of these lovely little rainbow trout. But usually I release them. But in this stocked pond, we decided to take them, largely because we went down to the United States to Duck Lake in Montana, and we had to pay quite a bit to get an out-of-country fishing license, as well even to put our boat on the lake. And so we decided we would keep them. And I actually, we took them home, and I've got 4 of these fish that I've allocated for my dear mother, but 2 I took home on Sunday and I barbecued them. And there's a wonderful, wonderful technique that you can barbecue them on a cedar plank. And so you soak the cedar plank, so a piece of wood, and it's good and wet, and then you lay the fish on top of it, and then you cook them on the barbecue, and they taste delicious. Well, guys, I want to share with you my masterpiece. This is me trying to cook rainbow trout on cedar plank. Look at this. I had to snap a picture. Now, the flames originally were actually a little bit higher than I anticipated than this picture, so they'd burn down a little bit. But can you guys see this? It's hilarious. There's my fish, and you can see how big the fish actually were. They were good-sized fish on my barbecue here. But I had the temperature too high, and so the cedar planks dried out really quick, and then they caught on fire and proceeded to char-broil my fish. Now, fortunately, I was actually able to save the fish, most of the meat, but this was my experience on the weekend. And so those of you who are chefs, boy, I'm going to need some instructions from you guys. All right. So there, I had to share that with you. It was a lot of fun. And Connor had a great time. We all caught fish, and they were actually really good-sized fish. So this picture doesn't really do them justice, but they were good fish in that lake. All right, it is now time. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and it is now time for you guys to post your questions live. And I have another consult that is going to start at 1:10, and it's 12:51 right now, but it's live time. And this is the bonus section for you awesome people who are watching live and participating. So now's the time to post your comments, and I will try to get through as many as I can answering your questions. Now remember, express entry, keep them short, very specific. In other words, short in terms of being short in length, so I don't have to read them very long. And make sure that the question doesn't have multiple layers to it, and that it's easy for me to respond, and most importantly, that it's of benefit to everybody in the group. If it's just about you and your unique circumstances, you're going to need to reach out, and we'll have to book a paid consultation. All right, let's see where we go here. We've got a bunch that have all come through really quick. Okay, Thomas says, let's see if I can connect Thomas here. This thing is not working very well for me. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to try to see the comments through another route. Bear with me, guys. This is always a little bit of a challenge here as I'm trying to be the technician, the videographer, the main subject who's a part of it. I'm just going to try to pull this up, the actual, there we go. I'm just trying to pull up the actual comments here so that I can see them better. Okay, let's see if we can find them. Scrolling down, opening it up. Okay, this is better here. Okay, so Thomas says, finally, I am doing a soft landing tomorrow. Thanks for all the support you've given. Got 2 questions. Okay, Thomas, here we go. Follow goods form. Okay, I see 2 fields, the country of origin and country of export, how these 2 are different. That's a question that exceeds the nature of our express entry, so I'm going to skip through that one. That would require you us to in terms of this form, that's very, very specific. So I'm going to pass on that one, Thomas. Follow-up question, I'm not planning to export anything as I don't have much things, but instead planning to take things with me like laptop, phone, clothes, etc. in my check-in or carry-on back when I land next time. So do I really have to fill this form? I would. Even when you've got a check-in and what you're bringing, usually you're gonna claim the larger things. So example, if someone's moving from the United States, they may be bringing something we call in North America a U-Haul, which is basically a rented truck with a big storage in the back to be able to haul things directly into Canada. And so in those cases, you definitely want to declare it. But if there is anything big, remember, if you don't declare it in the beginning through that form, then if you try to bring it in later, it's possible that they could charge you duty on it. So be aware of that. All right, next question is from Razib, and he says, I am in my home country now. I'm going to the US for study purposes, and will stay there for a semester before I land in Canada. How do I notify IRCC about my address and phone number change? Okay, well, you usually do it through the case-specific inquiry section. And when you're doing it through there, there's a section where you can actually post or make changes to your address. And I'm going to make a note here to post this in the comment section right under your question, Razib. So I'm going to make a note of that, and I'll put a link and address change. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I will do that. All right. Next question is Anton, and he says, hello, Mark. My common law spouse and I are going for immigration in Canada. However, my work experience, it's NOC 6313, but my education is only 1 year college, while she has NOC 6533 type experience and a master's degree. Okay, this looks to me like, okay, so this one is too long, my friend. I didn't see how long this one was. So Anton, this one needs to be a little bit shorter. And this is basically, how do I qualify? Which would actually require you to book a paid consultation. So in those circumstances, what I traditionally tell people is that they should go in and I'm just going to open this up and I'm going to post a comment right to yours. Let's see if I can pull this up. bear with me because we have so many questions. I am actually, it doesn't look like I can. Okay, I'm just going to post this right here. So in the comment section, you can see the link to book a consultation. And Anton, I'm more than happy to answer all your questions. It just doesn't work for the purposes of an EE Live Q&A. And it really makes sense for me to have the time to go through everything and give you suggestions on everything, everything, all the options that are available to you. Okay. Jasdeep says, Mark, you're looking awesome. That's because I've actually been out, had some sun, and was able to relax a little bit, which is great. Mauricia, hi. She says, hi, Mark. In preparing the work reference letter for foreign experience, should we include the 4-digit NOC code on the letter? Mauricia, I will often do it. I'll include it. It's not necessary, though. So only if you'd like to. Okay. Vivek says, my reference letter at an old employer tells the monthly salary at the time of joining and at the time of leaving. Will it suffice? Okay, that's fine. Obviously, they want to know that you're paid, and that's the most important thing. So if it shows what you were paid at the beginning and what you were paid at the end, that's totally fine. They don't care. They just want to make sure that you were paid. Okay, great question, Vivek. Momin says, should I bring any cash when I enter Canada after the permanent residence is granted? How much? Oh, Momin, you can bring whatever you want. But remember, if you're carrying with you $10,000 Canadian in cash or the equivalent, you must declare that to the Canada Border Service Agency when you come in, because it is an offense not to declare that large sum of cash. Okay? Deepika says, thank you, Mark, for the answer. Much appreciated. You are very welcome, Deepika. Saad says, can we use part-time experience from 2 different countries under the same NOC to have 1 year of experience? Well, the reality is, yes, you can. The key, okay, so the key is that you're showing that you're working simultaneously in both places. And so if you've got part-time experience in 2 different countries, yes, it's under the same NOC, so that works. And this is a good question, Saad. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to the Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility. And I'm going to pull this up so you guys can see this. And I'm going to click on here. And I think this is pretty visible. And then we're going to look here. And this is what you're looking at. So equal amount in part-time. So the key is that you've worked at least 15 hours a week for 24 months in 1 year full-time. So that's one option. Or full-time at more than one job, which is actually the one that we're referring to for you. You have to show that together you worked at least 30 hours a week for 12 months or more at more than one job, and it has to be for a full year of at least 1,560 hours. So when I see your question here, and I'm thinking to myself as an officer, okay, 2 different locations and 2 different countries, are you really working 15 hours for each of them? And so you're going to really need to justify that. You're going to need to be able to explain to immigration how it was possible for you to do that in 2 different countries. Maybe you're working virtually. Maybe it's more of a virtual position, but it is possible. All right. Hamna says, hi there. If a person as a spouse only has completed high school outside Canada, will they be awarded points for education, IELTS, or skill transferability, as CRS score is not adding it? So basically, you have to understand that any time that you are trying to claim any education, it has to be assessed. So you go through and you get your educational credential assessment. You've gone through yourself. And if I share my screen again and I go to, let's see here, if I've got it open, I don't. I'll just go to CRS criteria. Okay, so when you go through here and we look at the specific requirements for education, you'll see that the education, if we have a spouse, we'll go pull down here to spouse. Okay, just about there. Okay, so you'll see if you have high school, you do get 2 points. So your question related to, let's see here, I gotta make sure it keeps, this darn screen keeps shifting down for me. So if you've completed high school and your high school is equivalent to Canadian high school, then you can actually get the 2 points. And when it comes to, actually I can probably do federal skilled worker eligibility, and I go down to education and I look at the selection factors. if you look at as a spouse right here, you'll see that a spouse only gets points. Age, arranged employment, adaptability here. Okay, so past study in Canada. So you only get points for past study in Canada as a spouse, and so it can be at a secondary or post-secondary school in Canada. 2 academic years of full-time study in a program of at least 2 years, and so that only counts if the study is in Canada. But if it's outside of Canada, you still can get 2 years. 2 points. It's pretty small, and it's almost not even worrying about, but there is some points that are available to you. All right, so let's keep cruising down here, and we're into overtime now, guys. So I'm going to try to answer a few last ones for you guys. Fazila says, thank you so much, Mark, for answering. I can't thank you enough for all your help. Fazila, anything that I can do to help. All right, and I've got my link to book a consult. And then I also want to show you guys one other thing here, just while we're talking about random things. I want you guys to always remember, and I had a couple other people subscribe just today. I'll click the link and I'll put it right in here. There it is. So I've had 3 people just today, another 3 people just subscribe, and I just wanted to let everybody know, because I don't really advertise it very much anymore. But the reality is, right here is the link to my step-by-step do-it-yourself guide. So that's, I think we can see this one here. If I blow this one up, that's this one right here. And so and I guess I really don't need to do that. I just need to go to the site. This is where you can enroll in it. And remember, I've got right now going on a promotion that's 50% off. And I don't think I told people about it. Maybe I haven't really advertised it. You can get monthly access to it for $97 US, and I have a promotion that's 50% off this $497. And I'll post in here the code. But if you want to gain access to a lifetime access to the whole course, you can do that just by clicking on the link. And you click on Enroll in Course here. And then once you clicked on Enroll, then I'll give you a coupon that you can add in here. And then it will reduce that to, I think it's $248.50. Okay. So I had some other people that just subscribed just today, and I thought I'd just let all of you guys know about that. Okay. Jumping back to the questions at hand here. Okay. All right. So Suresh says, if I get married after getting a confirmation of permanent residence and land in Canada, will I be able to get PR for my sponsor? If yes, what is the process? Okay, so obviously, Suresh, this is a pretty large and lengthy question. But the reality is, yes, if you get married after you become a permanent resident of Canada and you land, so after, then it's totally fine. You sponsor your spouse. You have to be living in Canada as a permanent resident. You have to be able to show that you've got employment, but ultimately, and that you can provide a notice of assessment. But the reality is, when you're sponsoring your spouse, you do have to understand that it's going to be probably another year before you can have them come here. Current processing times are about a year. And many, many people are doing that now because, well, some people are listing their spouse as non-accompanying and then choosing to sponsor them after, which is totally fine. But in no circumstance, Suresh, at all, do you ever want to get married before you become a permanent resident? In other words, after you've submitted your electronic application for permanent residence and before you land, in that period there, you don't want to get married and then not disclose that spouse and have them medically and examined from a police clearance standpoint. Otherwise, you could be forever barred from sponsoring them. All right. Okay, Ankur Sharma says, I am back, Mark Holthe. Thank you so much, Ankur. You were awesome. You did a fantastic job in the interview with you. Thank you so much. Okay, Momin says, my post is brand manager. My job description, responsibilities, Knox lies under 124. My mention is that a problem that my post name is different. I think, Momin, I'm going to have to pass on your question. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by post name. Okay, Razib, I will take the minimum required amount of cash, 12,500 Canadian with me when I will land in Canada from the US. after a soft landing, once I leave Canada, can I bring the money back with me to the US, or have to keep the money in a Canadian bank account? Oh, Razib, you can do whatever you want. It's not a problem at all. Once you demonstrate that you have the funds available to you, yeah, you can do whatever you want. It's totally fine, totally flexible. All right, guys, I think we are just about done. So I think I'm going to wrap up there. Thanks everybody for all of your participation, for being awesome as always. And you know, like I said, this EE Live Q&A is always sponsored by the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. So I'd encourage you guys to check that out. And I also want to let you know about another fantastic offer. So this is me, Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, located in Canada, in Lethbridge, Alberta. Not, as many of you probably realize, I'm not a consultant. I'm not located in Chandigarh. I'm not located in Nigeria or South America. And I live in Canada, which is more expensive. And so the fees that I charge are commensurate with not only the fact I'm an immigration lawyer, not a consultant, and I am actually physically working in a Canadian law firm, a well-respected one. And so the fees that I charge, they are the going rate for highly experienced immigration lawyers that are practicing in Canada. And in all honesty, many people probably overseas know of other representatives that probably charge the same. But I charge traditionally $5,000 Canadian for my gold plan. And that's my full representation. It's not the plan where if something goes wrong, I say, sorry, you only paid me to submit your application, not help you after. This is me dealing directly with you, working with you. I charge $5,000. But in an effort to try to make my services available to more people, I have the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. I've showed you that. But I also want all of you guys to know and understand that it's not just that. I also have, and I'm not sure if you've seen it, and I got to remember if I'm pulling up the right one here. Is it this one? Nope. I've got too many of these. Well, this one says 440, but this is basically it, guys. I actually 330 is the amount. I wonder if, just give me a second here. Yeah, that's the 440. Okay, so this says you must have a CRS of 440, but I've actually limited it to 430 CRS points. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I don't believe in taking people's money and not providing a pathway for them to get permanent residence. And the comprehensive ranking system score, the rounds of invitations, has not dropped below 440 all year. So I don't believe in taking people's money and submitting an application just because they're eligible. And let me see if I can get in here and do this so you can see everything. Eligible, right? How many clients, how many representatives overseas say, oh, you meet the minimum entry, you can get in the Express Entry pool. I will only charge you X dollars. Well, the reality is, guys, unless I know you're going to get an ITA, I don't want to take your money. And so that's why I had it set at 440 here. But the reality is, because there's been some changes with some of the PNPs, and technically there are opportunities to get an expression of interest and a notification from the provinces if you're in the 430 range, then I will agree to represent people through Express Entry. And we'll talk about the PNPs after, if they have an opportunity to go through a province as well. And in some cases, having 430 or more CRS points can potentially make you eligible. So that's the cutoff. So what is this all about? 50% off my gold plan. That's a savings of $2,500 Canadian. And right now it's open. And I'm doing it because I have an awesome person that is helping me, Ada, who I'm not sure if she's watching this live right now. If she is, she can chime in. But Ada is helping me to file these applications so that I can offer it at a rate that is lower. Now, I still review it. I still go through everything together, but it's not me filling out everything. And so Ada is helping me to collect the information, to prepare the applications, to work directly with you guys, but you still get access to me. And so $2,500 Canadian plus the taxes and fees. And in Alberta, the sales tax is only 5% for the goods and services tax, the GST. So this is a special offer that I'm only offering to Express Entry Law Facebook group members, and that's all of you guys. So if you're interested in doing that, what you do is you send an email, or sorry, you access the link, which I had shown you guys before here. We'll go right here. This one right here is where it says schedule a consultation. You can enter your information in here and just let me know that you're a member of the group and that you want to access the gold. Then what I do is I go through and I assess to make sure that you actually meet the minimum entry requirements for the program, as well as that your points are actually in the range of at least 430. Because like I said, I don't want to take your money if I don't believe you have a good chance of qualifying. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have a difficult situation that I only take easy, straightforward ones. That's not the case. Most of the consultations I do are all for people who are struggling, who have questions that are not otherwise answered, who have, for example, have purchased the guide and have a great resource to walk them through everything, but they've run into something about their unique situation that's just a little bit different than other people. And there isn't an answer because it's unique to them. And that's when I jump in and do the consults. So guys, it was an absolute pleasure doing this with you today. I love doing this. And you'll see that I'm not as active in the Express Entry Law Facebook group anymore because literally it's become so large that my answers are only visible by very few people. And half of the time, I don't even see when you guys post it in the timeline. So if you want direct access to me, it'll have to be through a paid consultation, or you can send me an email to mholthy@stringham.ca, put EE Live Q&A in the subject line, and you can then from there have the ability to post a question that maybe I might use in one of these EE Live Q&As. I also, as the last little piece of what I'm doing, want to share with you one other thing that many of you may or may not know about, and that is the fact that I have the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel. And so I'm going to pull this one up. And this channel right now has been growing and growing. And right now, when I started, I think it was about 3,000, and now we're at about 8,709 subscribers. But all of my past videos are here, guys. So this is where you can access all of the past videos in a very, very easy format. And this goes back a long ways. And I can guarantee that at this stage, there is not too many questions that I have not already answered in video form. So thanks for tuning in. It was a pleasure having you join me. And thanks for all of you guys on the Canadian Immigration Institute's YouTube channel. Doesn't matter if you're not a part of Facebook. I get tons of clients that come through the YouTube channel, the Canadian Immigration Institute. So thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share, and same thing goes for the group. Let your friends know about the Express Entry Law Facebook group. They can tune in and watch these live as well. All right, guys, Mark Holthy, Canadian immigration lawyer, practicing in the beautiful province of Alberta, Canada, with the law firm of Stringham LLP. Signing off, wishing you guys all the best as you're trying to navigate this crazy world that we call Express Entry. Take care.